Now we can say Robby and John podcast. Take one.
Oh, two
Damn.
claps.
Well, I didn't get a good resonant clap the first time. Let me try it again. That's a good clap.
All right, so it's
We'll take the third clap.
Okay, here we go.
Well, if you heard the clap on your end, it should all sync up. I don't know.
But I didn't clap.
But it should have got mine.
But then how do I sync it to my
but
file?
on your audio.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, then.
Just 1, 2, 3, clap. Is that good?
1, 2, 3, clap. On the car. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, clap.
Done. Oh, a nice spike.
Nice. That'll get us
Oh
close.
man, hold on. This is all. Hold on. Alexa, tell the Roomba to go home. Home automation. Yeah, we got a Roomba, and I sprung. Don't judge me. I sprung maybe an extra $100 for the model that I can tell Alexa to command. So I can say into thin air, lady in a can, tell the Roomba to clean my living room. And then it goes, do, and then it cleans my living room.
Let's rock and roll. What do you want to talk about? Anything new? I probably should have listened to your show before I did this.
Oh, yes, you should have. You don't know what you're in for.
But I want my reaction to be authentic, and I want you to get the real me. You don't want the prepared me.
No,
you want
I
all
don't.
natural. Mlynczak
All
and
natural.
the raw. That's what you're getting. So you're getting my authentic, unaltered, unbiased take on everything you're about to do to me.
I think that's especially important given that one of the things that we are going to talk about today is an announcement that your company just made yesterday.
Yes, we made a huge announcement yesterday. And it, do you ever feel like you have a secret? I mean, we had times in our lives where you have a secret, like when you're about to propose to your wife, and or your future wife, hopefully if she says yes, and like you have this ring, and it's like you can't tell anyone, but you want to tell everybody, or like you're getting a new job and you can't really tell your old job yet. There's these times in our lives where like you're about to have a kid, but you don't want to tell everyone yet. You want a kid. It's like you have this secret, and you can't tell anyone yet, and it just like drives you crazy. And it's so exciting. That's been the last hardcore for a year, but like we've been talking about this for years and years. So it's been a long time coming. And so yesterday, just being able to finally talk about Noteflight Marketplace openly and tell people like this is happening. This is real. This is what we want to do for music publishing and music purchasing for musicians and composers and arrangers. I seriously went to bed last night with like this huge weight off my shoulder. Like, oh my gosh, I can talk about it now, So it's super exciting. Now I just want to like climb to the highest mountain top and just shout out the news.
Well, here is your digital megaphone of the morning. Tell let's chat about it. So Noteflight Marketplace is a publishing and sales platform built off of the web-based app for score editing, Noteflight. And this essentially, I'll give the really abridged version, then you can detail whatever nooks and crannies you want. This allows users who are 18 and older to take arrangements and original scores and really easily distribute them using the Noteflight engine. And then it allows other users of Noteflight to essentially buy them. And basically what this does is it takes your Noteflight project and it uploads it, adds an extra tab to your user profile called, I believe, Marketplace. And people can browse your scores and arrangements there. And if they like one, they can purchase it. Noteflight takes a cut, and then the user gets to install this score or arrangement into their library of their My Scores section, where they can, I believe they can actually do some editing to it and, change the key, maybe change the tempo, change a couple of notes, do some rearranging, and then share that with the number of people that they are authorized to do so.
Robby, did you read our purchasing and selling guides?
I did
Look at
all of
you.
my homework, John.
A plus.
I,
A plus.
Ah.
Man. Yeah. So I want to talk about purchasing and selling separately, and I'll. Which one do you want to go for first? How about let's start with purchasing, because if you understand how the purchase works, then we can talk about, the selling side.
I think that is a logical order to do it. I'm going to then circle back around to purchasing once you're done, because I feel like there's, if you have time, there's a meta discussion that I want to dig into. But go ahead.
I hope so. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'd love to talk about. Now, so purchasing, first of all, Noteflight Marketplace, we're launching with over 60,000 scores available for sale. Everything that is purchased on Noteflight Marketplace, everything for sale is a Noteflight score. And, you do have to have a Noteflight account, but you can have a free account. Any free member can buy music. Free members can buy all the music they want, and it lives in your Noteflight account forever. And of course, you can print the purchase. You can export it to PDF, just like you can any digital purchase of music online. So you could essentially just buy a score and print it, and you're good. Or you can make certain adaptations to it. So when you buy a piece of music, it shows up in the My Purchased Scores section of your account. It just says Purchase Scores, actually. And so all of your purchases live in this Purchase Scores area of your Noteflight account. And you can have unlimited purchases and have as many as you want. And so when you open a purchase, it opens in the Noteflight editor on any browser, on any screen. So you could print it as is. We've even given some editing functions in that purchased view. So you're viewing your purchased score. You can change the formatting. You could adjust the part size. You can adjust the note size on the score. You can change the instruments. You can transpose it to different keys. And so you can make those adjustments and print it. You can't, at that point, when you're making certain tweaks to your purchased version, you can't actually save any edits you do there, but you can quick transpose it up a step and print it. Or, swap the trumpet part for a violin part, change the octave, whatever, print it out. That type of thing. Now, and that's something you can always do with your purchase. Now, if you want to actually make further adaptations to your score, all of your purchases have a little button on the side that says Save a Copy. And you can click that, and it will make a copy of that purchase into your My Scores section of your Noteflight account. So in your Noteflight account, My Scores is basically everything that's yours. And so you can make, essentially unlimited copies in your account. Now, a free basic Noteflight account member is limited to only having 10 scores in their My Scores section. You can have unlimited purchases, but you can only create up to 10 scores. But don't worry, you can upgrade to premium for $7.95 a month or $49 a year and have unlimited scores in your My Scores section. But we'll get to that. However, do you like that plug, Robby? Do you see how it just so rolls off the tongue so easily?
I knew you'd find a
so
place.
I'm just trying to make this distinction that you can make unlimited purchases, and all your purchases you can tweak and you can transpose and you can do formatting and print. And then you can also make copies of your purchases digitally into your My Scores. And then this copy essentially becomes like any of your other Noteflight scores, where you can actually edit it with the Noteflight editor, just with the notation. And you could essentially change it however you want. Now, we're certainly not circumventing copyright laws and saying, go ahead and rearrange this completely or whatever. But we understand people need to make certain adaptations to their music. So if you just want to dissect it and play with it for fun and, rearrange it for your own amusement, you can certainly do that. It's obviously the distribution of these works where it becomes an issue. So, but you can make copies of your score and save different versions. So let's say you purchase something and you need it for a brass choir, and you adapt it for a brass choir, and okay, that's great. Well, then later you might need it in a different key, or you might need it for strings. Well, you would make a copy of that and then tweak it to strings. So you could save all sorts of copies of your purchase and all these different adaptations. There are a couple, restrictions on the copies you make just because of certain rights issues, because you are adapting someone else's work. So when you make a copy of a Noteflight, a purchased score, there are certain things you cannot do. You cannot change the title. You cannot change the original contributors, whether that's the arranger or the composer or the songwriter or the lyricist, whoever the original contributor is, you can't change that. You cannot edit the copyright notice in the score. So first and foremost, you cannot make an adaptation to a score and change the name and change the original author and change the copyright, because we want to be clear that this is this original author's work with this copyright. So we've actually locked those fields from being editable for obvious purpose. The second thing is that you cannot share a copy of a purchased score to the Noteflight community. It's not allowed to be shared, because otherwise you could just buy something and then just share it to the public for free. So purchase scores are in your account. You can edit them, but you can't share them to the Noteflight community. That area is restricted. You also cannot export a purchase score as XML or MIDI, right? You can't take it out, because otherwise you could take it out of Noteflight and adapt it in other ways that we can't control. So we're finding this balance of giving musicians and buyers the freedom to make the adaptations they need with the Noteflight editor, and at the same time protecting the rights holders and the songwriters and composers of the music that they are selling. So that's why, it's really important to sellers too, that they are selling their music as adaptable files. However, your music will always retain your name, your title, your copyright, and cannot be shared or exported digitally. But it can be adapted and printed by the purchasers of that music. Does that all make sense?
I think it makes total sense. Yeah, I think from what I've read, it seems like you're striking a really good balance. I think that the problem with efforts that other companies have made to distribute the work of composers electronically have often been too far tipped over to the protecting copyright side, to the point that the service is no longer convenient. And I'm thinking about like for me personally, the J.W. Pepper e-print thing. I remember the first time I ever did that. For those who are unaware, J.W. Pepper is a distributor of sheet music, often used by music educators, and you can do this feature where instead of having the score and the parts shipped to your location, you can actually print the PDFs digitally. Well, I don't know if it's still the same way, because I tried it once and never did it again, but it puts you in this web portal where you can only actually send to the printer the exact number of the parts you're authorized for. And I remember having a printer issue where the printer jammed, and then I had lost the one percussion one part that they were going to give me. And I'm sure if I had emailed them, they would have sorted it out. But I think what I'm saying is that is so inconvenient that, it's still more convenient than waiting a week for the score and parts to ship to your location. But I think what Noteflight is doing here is you're making it so easy. You're putting all of the tools in the hands of the user, and you're giving them a lot of freedom to do what they want to with that score, to make it adaptable to themselves, while I think still covering all of your copyright bases too.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what our goal was. And I've used ePrint for many retailers, and at the time when it was available, it's a great service. And with J.W. Pepper is a wonderful service, a wonderful company. I'm going to avoid talking about any other specific retailers, because it's how Linear we distribute to everyone equally, and I want to make sure that we're not talking about any specific other friends or competitors here. But in respect to the evolution of music going from paper to digital, I think is what you're hitting on. And this is something we've obviously talked about a lot here. And you remember, copyright and music has always been based on paper. The restriction has been, you're buying this paper from the store, and you cannot alter it or change it, and you cannot photocopy it. Well, we all know when the photocopier came out that people were photocopying music all the time. And of course, that's not allowed. The idea is that we're trying to protect the rights holders and song owners and ensure that every person who's going to perform their work is actually paying for their work. It goes back to the intent. The intent is every person that's going to perform this should have paid for it. And we did that by saying, here's a piece of paper, you cannot photocopy it. If you want another one, you got to buy another one. And that's how it's been. And so moving forward, the internet comes out, and all of a sudden now we're like, okay, we can do e-print. And the publishers and all the retailers, and we've worked as quickly as we can with the rules that were in place from the original copyright contracts to try to adapt them to a digital world and say, okay, well, what can we do digitally, even though all the contracts and rules and protections are based on paper? And we're not the only industry to have this issue. I mean, we know that streaming, audio music, and TV, Netflix, Hulu, or Spotify, Pandora, I mean, all these other industries have struggled with how do I do digitally what I used to do physically, and what are the rules and laws surrounding them? So, this isn't new or unique to sheet music in any means. I mean, this even came up with like eBay and Etsy and sites like that, where how commerce becomes a marketplace and how we're exchanging things. So this isn't new, but it's new to sheet music. So as it's evolved, the ePrint's been there, the Get the PDF has been there, and we're simply another step in that path. And we're now saying, we want you to be able to print it out. We want you to be able to have that digital file. But we also understand that in many cases, you may need it in a different key. Your singer may feel like they need it down a half step today, or there may not be an arrangement for this thing available, which is what I really want to capture. It's not as much about, we don't really intend, and we really shouldn't have people, changing a composer's intent and saying, I don't like this ending, I'm going to do it or whatever, But there's a huge new opportunity in giving these editable files, in that, traditionally, music is published for the most popular ensembles, right? And you think about, like, it can be whether it's a string orchestra or a string quartet or a brass quintet or concert band or a choir, 4-part, 3-part choir. We have these very traditional ensembles and traditional quote-unquote instrumentations, and these ensembles exist, and music is. So I kind of look at it and I step back and say, okay, these traditional ensembles are forming and performing, and the rep is all written for them. Are we writing rep for the ensembles, or are the ensembles forming because that's the instrumentation of the rep? And that's who's driving this, and it's probably both, and we get that. But one thing about Noteflight Marketplace that just thrills me is that not only can you adapt the music you're purchasing for other instrumentations, but you can also sell your music for other instrumentations. So if I want to, if I have a trombone player and a clarinet player and a saxophone player and a didgeridoo and a kazoo, and we want to make music together, we can't find music written for trombone, clarinet, saxophone, didgeridoo, and kazoo. But we could buy something that has 5 parts and adapt it for our needs. Or we can arrange something that works for us, and if we've taken the time to arrange it, say, hey, this is pretty cool. I'd love to sell my arrangement and see if other people want to do this. And maybe they have 2 kazoos instead of a saxophone. I'm not sure which one sounds different. You probably can't tell. But anyway, point being is that the ability for people to find, discover, create, adapt music for whatever instrumentation or whatever need arises is phenomenal. And I think about so many uses for this. I mean, the first of which is obviously in education. I taught at a small school. My schedule was based on a semester basis. I had 4 saxophones, 2 flutes, 4 percussionists, and a viola, and an electric guitar player, and a drum set player in a band once. And seventh graders. Like, what rep exists for that? So, we write stuff for these kids, especially these small ensembles that have these different instrumentations. Like, you write stuff, but, God, if I had the ability to buy something that I could easily adapt for that group instead of having to write it from scratch, it'd be amazing. Or on the flip side, if I took the time to write it from scratch, I could put it up and maybe sell it and try to do it as a fundraiser for the school or a fundraiser for me or whatever it may be. So that's what's really exciting to me. And one of the things that we have thought about a lot, and we're constantly making adjustments to, is how do we allow people to search Noteflight Marketplace for music, knowing that, people will search for music the way they always have. Show me string quartet, show me brass choir, whatever. But also give them the flexibility to say, you know what, I really just want to see everything that is for 4 players. Or I want to see everything that's a solo that's for wedding, and I can, adapt it for violin as I need. So what we've done is we've created, when you search all of the scores, you have a lot of filters on the right side. And we're actually adding more and more filters soon. So there's a lot of redundancy in the filters, and we know this because we want to give buyers the flexibility to find music as they choose. So if I'm looking for a trumpet piece, I could just, search for a love song and click trumpet and show me the trumpet stuff. But I may not find what I need. So maybe I want to back out and say, well, I could adapt something from another instrument. So maybe I just want to search for everything that's a solo. So let me try solos. Or let me back out and say, let me try things that are for one performer, because a solo can be considered like a solo with piano or something like that. So maybe I want to show me things that are only for one performer, and that could. So you see what I'm saying? We give all this flexibility. So we want people to be able to find music, knowing that they can the options of what I can now purchase and sell are sort of endless, which I think is extremely exciting.
Okay, I've got like one thing to say about sales and like 8 things to ask you about publishing. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I'll say and then ask. I will say that I have a handful of friends in the school district where I'm teaching who compose wonderful music, and I would love to see them up on a platform like this. I think it'll make it very, very easy for them. I can't really see any reason why you would not want to use a platform that's so easy to use, and not only are you putting these convenient tools in the hand of the person who buys the music, but also Noteflight it's web-based, so it's like there's no one who can't have Noteflight, which I think is great. And you're taking a ton of cruft out of the experience by simply just being, a modern and elegant website that doesn't suck for navigating and searching and seeing, not being bombarded by ads and buttons, at least ones that annoy me. So I think it's a good experience to sell and to buy. It's simple, it's straightforward. What if someone does not find, what if the procedures are just not agreeable to someone? Like, can someone, obviously you can just not sell on Noteflight if you don't want to, but what if you're already selling your music on something like, I know Avid now has a marketplace for doing Sibelius scores. Can someone sell their same score on both platforms?
Oh, sure. That's an excellent question. So on the selling side, on Noteflight Marketplace, we'll start there. You can sell your original work. You can sell an arrangement of a public domain work, or you can sell, and this is the one that's excited about Marketplace, you can sell an arrangement of a copyrighted. Now, right now, there's only 2 places that you can self-publish an arrangement of a copyrighted work. And the first is Noteflight Marketplace. The second is Sheet Music Plus has a program called Arrange Me that's been around for a couple years. And by the way, Sheet Music Plus and Noteflight, we're both Hal Leonard companies. So it's with Hal Leonard that we're offering these programs where we, collective we being Hal Leonard, have the ability to clear the rights and pay the rights holders for your arrangements of copyrighted works. So the big difference in something like, if Avid has a marketplace or anyone else has a place to exchange music is they don't have agreements in place and the ability to allow you to arrange and sell copyrighted works. So
now, tell me a little.
Go ahead.
So that ability, because I did a little bit of reading on the sort of I know Hal Leonard is not responsible for any copyright. If there's a dispute, you guys are going to immediately take the score off and then step back and have the two in dispute kind of work that out legally. But maybe I misunderstood when I was reading. It sounds like someone can take any arrangement they please, and so long as the person who originally composed that work does not object, they can leave that on your store. Is this just for Hal Leonard published works, or is that? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you're talking about the song catalog now. So this is not only works that Hal Leonard publishes. We have, being the world's largest publisher, sheet music publisher, we have direct agreements with all the major rights organizations, Sony, Universal, all these folks. So we have collected the song catalog. Is a collection of basically every known song that has come from feeds from all the major rights organization, and including all the songs Hal Leonard's ever published and Hal Leonard knows about. So we basically compiled all of this data, and we have this song catalog that's somewhere upwards of 2 million songs. That is a collection of what everyone knows. Now you can imagine everyone's catalog, the top 30% are the same exact songs that we all know. So there's obviously a lot of duplicate data in there, and there's a lot of things that we're working through. But we've collected every known song, and then we have, in that massive catalog, every song has an ID, and we know who to pay, who owns these songs, and who to pay for the rights to arrange it. So this catalog is massive, and nothing like this has existed. This was the song catalog was working long before the building of Noteflight Marketplace, because we had to actually have this piece in place to do it.
Well, some of these rights must be expensive. So are you buying these on a case-by-case basis? Obviously, if someone wants to arrange a song, like some 20-year-old is just arranging their favorite 21 Pilots song, I mean, what constitutes being able to, for Hal Leonard to be able to afford the rights to that, or do you already have some sort of deal worked out in advance?
Oh, well, I mean, Hal Leonard has, they have, non-exclusive or in some cases exclusive rights to publish a lot of music based on their agreements with all the rights organizations. So we're just following those same exact agreements. If Hal Leonard publishes a song and that music sits out in the store or sits digitally and someone buys it, the rights holder gets X% of that sale. That's the agreement. I mean, that's the whole business, right? You publish music, someone buys it, the rights holder is entitled to their contractual percentage. So all we're essentially doing is paying the rights holders their exact contractual percentage on all of these sales, just like as if we publish it. This is truly a self-publishing program. The real difference is that we're now allowing anyone to, quote-unquote, publish an arrangement of something. Normally it would go through, editing, and anything that Hal Leonard publishes has an extensive process with editing, approvals, very carefully looked at, and that's why Hal Leonard music is of the utmost quality. And here we're saying on Noteflight Marketplace, like anyone can just publish an arrangement of something, and we'll let the buyers determine if they want to purchase it or not. The quality control comes from the marketplace, comes from sort of, crowdsourced quality control. We have ratings, reviews, favorites, likes. We have all of these things that people will, and then the cream will rise to the top. And buyers are, really it's a marketplace, so buyers are expected to self-promote, just like on Etsy and eBay. It's like, hey, buy my stuff on eBay, buy my stuff on Etsy, buy my stuff on Noteflight Marketplace. We give sellers tools to self-promote as well, in addition to including their works in our catalog. So it's really, simple in that it's just considered, you sell something, it's just as if it was published, and we're paying rights holders exactly what they deserve. And that happens instantly, which is pretty cool. We've built an automated system in that at the moment the transaction happens, all the money is split off, which is pretty complicated, but we have an amazing development team here. So at the point of the transaction, like the seller gets their cut in their account immediately. I mean, I think it takes 8 days to clear the credit card transaction, but so it's not like we wait to at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, and we add all this stuff up and mail checks. Like, no, your music sells, your percentage goes to your balance right away, and it's paid out, monthly. Or the same thing, the rights holder's percentage is cut off and split off for them immediately, and so is, Noteflight's percentage. So we're doing that real time and paying everyone in real time, which is pretty awesome. Okay,
I promised myself that I wasn't gonna go down the legal rabbit hole with you, but I have so many questions now. Okay, so
no, that's okay. So I want to go legal real quick. I want to circle back to the first question that I didn't fully answer. Is that in respect to other marketplaces where Avid has a marketplace and there's other self-publishing places to sell your original music, anyone who sells an original song or an arrangement of a public domain song on Noteflight Marketplace. That is non-exclusive. That means you can sell your original work and your arrangement of public domain work anywhere you please, including Noteflight Marketplace. Sell it everywhere, right? When it comes to arrangements of copyrighted works, right, you can only sell an arrangement of a copyrighted work on Noteflight Marketplace or on Sheet Music Plus Arrange Me, and nowhere else. So selling your work on Noteflight Marketplace and clearing the copyrights does not give you the right to print it out and go sell it at a trade show or anything like that. The sale has to go through Noteflight Marketplace, or it has to go through Sheet Music Plus's program in order for us to pay the rights holders. Now, if you have a direct agreement with a rights holder, then you're welcome to sell it elsewhere, but you'd have to be responsible for your own direct agreements with permission. So just to clear that up, arrangements of copyrighted works are exclusive to Noteflight Marketplace and Sheet Music Plus, but your arrangements of original or arrangements of your original songs or arrangements of public domain, you can sell anywhere you want. And we encourage you to. You should be selling your music everywhere. So now let's get legal.
Okay. Well, I'm curious. I think this is a question that probably you can only go so far into your answer. I guess there's just an interesting sort of like overlap here. Like, it seems that if another publisher wanted to take advantage of some of these tools that are already in place, there may be some incentive for another publisher to create sort of like a marketplace within your marketplace where they could sell the digital versions with all the convenient features of Noteflight. Now, I can see why they would lose a ton of money, but I guess what I'm getting at here is, is it in the future roadmap, or is there anything you can say about a future where some other publisher can say, hey, we want to create our own little, not store within your store, but our own little sort of almost like YouTube has different channels. Like, we want to have our own channel in the Noteflight Marketplace, and we want to sell our publications here, take advantage of all that same technology, but we're still our own publisher. Tell me a little bit about that. We're kind of getting into my meta topic here, which is, sort of more broadly looking at the future of digital publishing. And I feel like I said legal rabbit hole only because I feel like there's obviously some legal implications here, but take that question wherever you want it.
Oh, for sure. And this is something we thought about extensively. And as far as roadmap, we've talked about, and we at one point we were going to launch with we call it like a micro publisher, because there's thousands and thousands of publishers out there. We probably know the big 3 or 4, but there's so many independent small publishers, a lot of which are represented or distributed by Hound Leonard or distributed by other publishers. We understand all of this. And there's a lot of just micro publishers out there that have small catalogs that they control, especially in like the worship market. There's a lot of that out there. So we originally had a roadmap to launch with like a third option of selling your music as like a work I represent. And then we said maybe there's like a publisher level account. And then it got really complicated really fast, and we couldn't quite figure out a solution that worked for everyone. So we sort of backed off of that a little bit, but it's still on the roadmap as what we call like a micro publisher solution. So let's say I'm a small publisher and I have a small catalog of arrangements of hymns that I've done, but I essentially own the copyright of my arrangements or whatever. What we looked at is essentially taking arrangements of existing copyrighted works aside. If I'm a small publisher, or I own the rights to my work, or I represent a bunch of original composers and I'm their publisher, there's no reason why these people can't just create Noteflight premium accounts and sell music based and under their publisher name. They can certainly do that, and they can certainly distribute their proceeds to the people they represent however they want. So you have a seller account. When you sign up to be a seller, you can sign up as an individual or you can sign up as a corporation. And that's just for tax purposes that we provide you, because we provide all the tax documentation to you as well. So, and then when I go to sell something, my username in Noteflight is my seller account. But every piece I sell has a composer and arranger, and we don't automatically force the arranger name to be the name of the seller. You can actually add the arranger name. So I could actually put up there Mlynczak Music Publishing, which does not exist, but for example, but I could represent Robby and I can represent other folks, and I could actually put your arrangements up and say arranged by Robby, and then I could put these folks up, and then when I get my statements, I could pay you out whatever. I mean, so there's no reason why a small publisher couldn't go on and sell works that they represent in the system right now. Where it gets really complicated is when a publisher might have direct agreements to arrange certain copyrighted works that they've secured, previously. And that's where we've said for now, if you want to sell an arrangement of a copyrighted work, you have to identify the copyright in our song catalog, and Noteflight, Hal Leonard, we have to clear that copyright because we don't have your agreements. Like if you want to sell arrangements of copyrighted works on Noteflight Marketplace, you have to let us clear the copyrights within the agreements that we have. So the future piece, the only piece that's missing right now that a small publisher would need is, hey, this is an arrangement of a copyrighted work, but I have secured the rights to it, so I expect to get the full percentage, and I'm going to pay the rights holders on my own. And that's what we don't do right now. And that's the complicated piece that we're still thinking about, because we'd of course have to make sure that that information is accurate and they actually do have the rights. And so we've erred on the side of protecting rights holders at every crossroads of a decision. We've erred on the side of protecting rights holders, which is the right decision, obviously.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So it's very clear to see kind of the direction you all are thinking with regards to that. So I have a follow-up on that, but I feel like I need to sort of take a step back and ask another question, because I want to get back to that idea of, you mentioned, okay, there's clear implications in the not so distant future for smaller publishers. And then of course there's the couple of major, really big ones we know about. I want to come back to that idea in a second. But first, I feel like I need to get another question out of the way, and this is super pertinent to me as a middle school band director, someone who reads all of their sheet music now on an iPad. I conduct from the forScore app on a daily basis. So looking at this landscape, I think to myself, okay, this is a really compelling platform because, in order to get my music into forScore, I'm most often buying it, having the physical papers shipped to my school, scanning the score, and then putting it on my iPad and conducting from it in the band room. I mean, that's obviously a lot of work that you will have to be kind of a crazy person like me to do just to have that experience of conducting and scribbling on it on a screen versus on a piece of paper. So let me ask you this. So Hal Leonard publishes a ton of literature for the education world, like band, orchestra, choral literature. Is all of that literature available in Noteflight Marketplace?
Sure. These are, it's funny. These rights and publishing questions are extremely complicated, and there's actually like 3.7 questions in there, but I will clarify best I can. So actually, the first part of your question about can I get it to forScore? Can I put it on an app? What's the digital landscape of this music? That's actually I'll take that one first, and I'm going to talk about school band stuff and what Hal Leonard's offer in a second. That one thing I forgot to mention is that, we talked about e-print and restricting copies and prints and all of this. We came to the conclusion that it's difficult to sell music as adaptable Noteflight files and say, hey, you can tweak this. You can have it in a different key. You can make copies in your account and have arrangements in different keys ready to go for different situations. And at the same time say you can only print one copy. That's contradictory to the whole program. So what we came up with is you're buying music based on authorized performers. And so when you go to buy music and sell your music on Noteflight Marketplace, you have to make a decision about authorized performers. So every piece is sold for a minimum number of authorized performers. And it could be one, it could be two, and then we get into ranges. So the way it's sold is you sell your music and say this is for one person. or this is for 2, or this is for 3 or 4. And then we have a range that goes 5 to 10. And then we have a range that goes 11 to 20. And then we have this 21 and up. Like, it's for a whole group of people. So we pick these sort of ranges. And that's how you sell your music. And you kind of say, okay, this piece is $50, but it's $50 because it's for up to 20 people to play. It's for a small ensemble. Now, as a buyer, I can buy any piece of music for, the number of performers for whom it's sold, but I can also buy over that because we wanted to allow for the situation of, hey, here's an awesome choral work that's an SATB choral, and this would be amazing if I did this with a brass ensemble, 12 people. So I'm going to buy this choral work for 12 people, so I'm authorized to play it for 12 performers, and then I'm going to, put it in a flat key and add articulation and take away the words and, all of a sudden make a brass ensemble. So that's one thing when you talk about like printing, copy, and it's all about authorized performers, meaning what we're saying is that we're giving you the ability. First of all, we're trusting our buyers and musicians to do the right thing. You need to buy music for the number of people you're using it.
I think we've learned from Spotify and from Netflix that when you make the distribution convenient enough, people will be honest and they will pay for your service.
And we did a lot of research. We did user research. We looked at different industries. We talked to musicians. And, the thing it goes back to is like anyone that's played music, like we know how hard that life is. We respect everyone out there that's making music. Musicians at heart want to respect and protect each other. Most of them. I mean, there are some people that make it difficult for everyone. But for the most case, we understand people want to do the right thing. And we're trying to give them a clear path to do so. The other interesting thing, if you want to really get conceptual, is digitally, we're selling a Noteflight score. There's I can't sell 2 of those. Like there's only one. It's just the Noteflight score. You can't, if you buy a Noteflight score 3 times, you still have the same digital file that you can adapt and print. So we said, like, what does quantities look like? Like, can you buy 2? You really can't. Like, if it's a string quartet and I want to do it for 8 people, I can't buy. So we kind of said, well, we got to find a way to let people purchase for usage, but it's not really about the number of Noteflight scores you're buying. It's about the usage, because the Noteflight score itself can be printed and adapted as needed. So you buy based on usage, and you can buy it for 4 and then 2 months later say, oh, I got to do this with 6 people. Just go back to your purchase. There's a little button that says add more usage, and you could buy it, add more usage and buy it for more people. And all of a sudden, when you do that, this is the real cool thing. When you buy more usage, the authorized usage statement that's printed at the bottom of every part in the score that says authorized for Robby Burns up to 4 performers, if you change that to 6, we actually will change the authorized usage statement on every copy you've ever made of that score in your account. That authorized usage statement automatically switches. So you can, even ones you've made, so you buy a score for 4, you make 10 arrangements out of it, you have it in your account, and all of a sudden you need it for 6, you buy it for 6, everything you've ever done turns to 6 automatically. So you can immediately print it out, hand it to 6 people, and everyone knows that you've paid for the usage that you need, which is pretty awesome. So that's sort of the first part of your question, that whole like authorized usage. And now in saying that, if you're a forScore person, and forScore is a great app, it's a PDF reader, but it allows you to do like annotations and musical symbols on top as an overlay, and it's a great app. I really enjoy it. So here's the thing: if you buy a piece of music on Noteflight Marketplace and it's authorized for 4 performers, and you want to export it as a PDF, which you can do directly, you don't have to scan it. You can export that as a PDF and import that into your forScore. It's still Robby Burns using it. You're one of those 4 performers. So have at it, man. Make your adaptation, but you're paying to use this music for 4 people. So don't use it for more than 4 people without paying. But if you want to export the PDF and import it into your app or put it in your Dropbox and save it on your iPad for a gig or whatever you want, you're welcome to do that. Now, if you distribute that to someone who hasn't paid for it and you're authorized 4 performers, that's where you've violated, that's where you've robbed a rights holder, songwriter, composer of their due royalties for their art. But having said that, we're not going at you can't photocopy this, you can't put this in an app. We're backing off and saying, Robby Burns, you paid for this. You can do whatever you want with it as long as you do it for yourself, or you do it for this number of people that you're using this piece with. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, makes total sense. It's the way it should be.
We're excited about that, and again, as long as people don't abuse it. Here's the thing, if it starts getting abused, unfortunately, we will have to add restrictions, because our number one goal is to protect the rights holders and songwriters and composers of their art. So as long as people take this, what is the Spider-Man with great power becomes great responsibility. As long as people are doing the right thing and paying for the usage, and we don't see it being abused, we can do this. If it gets abused, we're going to, we have to protect rights holders. So everyone listening, do the right thing. Now, as far as, band arrangements and stuff like that, right now the majority of the content that we have for sale on Noteflight Marketplace from Hal Leonard is mostly piano, vocal, guitar arrangements, like the song. And that's because that's the stuff we already have in Noteflight files, because Noteflight powers a lot of sheet music distribution for other sites already. So we already had these songs ready to go. We will be adding soon, if you're a Noteflight Learn user and you're familiar with our content libraries, we have about almost 200 concert and jazz band scores, 100 orchestra, have a little over 100 choir. We have a bunch of school-specific arrangements that Hal Leonard owns that we will be putting for sale on Noteflight Marketplace in the coming weeks. So we will have a little over 400, between 400 and 500 educational specific, including concert band, orchestra, things like that Hal Leonard is selling. So, and of course, our sellers, we have over 200 sellers already. And by the way, that was within 1 week of launching. Or 2 weeks. We launched only to premium users secretly about 2 weeks ago, and gave them a head start to get their music for sale. And within 2 weeks, we have over 200 sellers and over 1,000 scores for sale. And that's just the beginning. So that's really exciting, that volume.
Yeah, so is the process of getting all of your concert, band, orchestra, choral, literature digitized, is that just, are there, within the company, are there legal steps that need to be taken to get some of that music to be agreed upon between you and the composer, or is it just simply a matter of getting it digitized? Is the eventual goal to have me be able to say, okay, anything that's in my music library that I purchased from Hal Leonard, now I can go to Noteflight Marketplace and buy a digital copy of that?
I think it is a long term in the world we live in now. I don't see why every music or song shouldn't be purchased or sold through Noteflight Marketplace. I mean, the fact that you can buy it as an editable file and it stays in your account forever and all that, but my dream is that, 2 years from now, we say, I'm going to Noteflight that. I'm going to Noteflight my music. Let's make Noteflight a verb. But seriously, yeah, of course the dream is to have everything bought and sold through Noteflight Marketplace. I think it makes sense. Hal Leonard, we have digital agreements with rights. Again, there's a complicated web of agreements and things that we're protecting, and we are staying true to all of our agreements. So there's a lot of music that we have rights to do digital with. There's some that we don't yet, and as those agreements and rights holders evolve, we will be able to put more and more music on. But the good thing is the music that is on Noteflight Marketplace and the songs that are allowed to be arranged, because not everything in the catalog is allowed. You will search for songs and realize that it cannot be arranged in Noteflight Marketplace, because there are some songs that just we don't have the rights to do so.
I was just going to ask if that's a hiccup with some of your arrangements. Simply because I can think about.
It's not a hiccup or poor, but it's just there's certain agreements in place. And we have to honor the agreements, and there's territory things there's some of it has to do with we want to make sure that we have the rights to sell it all over the world, and we don't have those world rights for everything. So right now, if a song is arrangeable in Noteflight Marketplace, if we're saying yes, you can sell your arrangement of it, trust that we have the rights to do so, and we have the rights to sell it everywhere. And if it's not arrangeable, there's a host of reasons, but. The cool thing is the more musicians we meet and the more people I talk to, we always have this, wait, can I do this? Can I photocopy this part for the second trumpet who lost it? What's legal? What's not? All of that. The cool thing is if you go to Noteflight Marketplace, anything you buy on there, trust that we have the rights to do, and we're watching it carefully, that it's all available. that you can do what we're saying you can do, and you can trust that it's okay. You can buy this song, you can arrange this song, and just know that as this process evolves, more songs will be added, and we could get in a situation where songs become restricted. It hasn't happened yet, but we could have a situation where someone says, hey, I'm uncomfortable, I own this work, I don't want it on Noteflight Marketplace, and we'll honor that too. So the song catalog will evolve over time. It will grow. Some things will be taken away, some things will be added. We're going to do our best to give musicians what they want and protect rights holders and protect songwriters and original composers. And I know you have another question. One more thing that is really cool that I want to make sure I point out is that, an original songwriter, when you sell your music as an original song on Noteflight Marketplace, we offer the same protections to you that we're offered to every other rights holders of every other song. Meaning when you put your original song up, anyone who buys it cannot take your name off it, cannot change your title, cannot change your copyright. It goes into our song catalog as either allowed to be arranged or not allowed to be arranged. When you sell your original music, you choose to let other people make arrangements of your work, yes or no. And we honor that, and we protect you in the same way we protect every other rights holder ever.
So I think what this is all leading to is, and I've sort of asked you a number of questions alluding to this, is sort of like I know the two of us have discussed before, sort of this like grand vision of the future of digital publishing. And I think that this kind of connects to a couple of things. I'm going to do another one of those bits where I ask one really long question that's really like 8 questions in one, and then you can do whatever you want with it. So here's the picture, and I'll paint this picture, and every music teacher who's listening is going to like nod to themselves silently as they're in their car. Once and I think it will take time, but once we continue to see a lot of the literature, like the band, the orchestra, and the choral literature become available, and whether that means that you can quite have the degree of control over those works as you can someone's piano arrangement. I would understand like if I get some band piece from Noteflight Marketplace and like that particular arrangement is that I can't transpose or simplify the flute part. Like that obviously would be so much more convenient to me than if it weren't there. So, obviously those potential restrictions make sense. But I think what we get as teachers in our head is like, okay, imagine now if we have not only Hal Leonard's works, but all the works that we would possibly want to have can be so simple to purchase and accessible to us. So, I think I envision this future where we have this situation, but there are a couple of sort of challenges that I picture, and I think some of them are relevant to this field and to Hal Leonard. So let me kind of pick this apart a little bit. So I'm coming back to forScore. So what makes forScore a really good app is that it's really native to iOS. So it feels like an app that belongs on iOS. It's got a similar feel. It's easy to use if you're familiar with other kinds of Apple apps. It also gives you a lot of control. Those developers, their whole livelihood is to make that app really good at what it does. So obviously it does things and has strengths that other areas of music notation might not be putting the same time into. So I picture this, you've already explained how much control someone has over a Noteflight purchase, which is awesome. So there's sort of this like, okay, I want the control. I want to put this in a place, one singular place where I can have the best possible experience interacting with that digital piece of music. And then we sort of have this other angle, which is sort of, and forScore in this case, sort of relating to, forScore is not a notation editor like Noteflight is. So I don't really put them in the same category. But I think what I'm trying to get at is that we have sort of, right now we have a lot of different environments where we can look at notes on a staff, on a screen. So keep that idea in one camp, and then look at this other sort of camp. We have this growing market of apps that allow students to play along to music that is in a database. You won't probably say your competitors' names, but I will. Smart Music is the one that probably most people listening are familiar with.
Like Practice
and I know
First and like the piano lessons,
like Note and
Piano Tutor,
and Noteflight, right. And Noteflight Learn is the offering that you will have, and it's backed by obviously like the powerful and large library that Hal Leonard has. And of course, like you said, it's growing. Like we'll probably over time see more band and orchestra and choral works that are like sort of like this, the educational staples. We'll see those become more and more available. So I guess what I'm looking at is sort of like there's this student-facing practice element, and then there's this sort of teacher-facing like notation editor, but also just score reading element. And forScore is great because it's sort of independent of publishing. But I look at these and I think, okay, once this industry moves forward and we have a lot of music available in these types of paradigms, that will be awesome for teachers. But my fear is what happens if we have like, okay, here's Noteflight Learn and Noteflight Marketplace, and I can get my Hal Leonard stuff there. Here is this other publisher over here. They have their own app where I can read my music, and maybe that publisher doesn't let me export to PDFs, so I can't use that in forScore with my other stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm seeing there, like, the future is bright, and Noteflight is, I mean, you guys are commendable for being on this. I mean, like, this is, like, really groundbreaking stuff. But I guess I can ask this more personally, like, how do you see Hal Leonard and Noteflight sort of combating this problem and trying to, like, make, what's the word I'm looking for here? I mean, streamline isn't the word I'm looking for, but trying to basically create a future where that is, digitally advantageous for music teachers everywhere who want to get all music into a digital system.
Oh, you just hit it right on the head. Like, this is the complication. And we envision a world where, the purchasing of the rights to use a song, again, like, think about this new concept of authorized performers. Like, imagine a world where I purchase a song, an arrangement, I purchase a work, and let's just, for simplification, say it's for me. It's for one person, it's a solo work, and I have it. And I, as John, have purchased the rights to use, I've paid the rights holders for their work, and I'm now mine. Now I have endless technology offered. I could use it with some sort of online assessment tool that gives me red note, green note, yellow note, blue note feedback of how it does. I can put it into this app, and I could pull it up as a reader. I could put it in another app, or I could upload to this website, and it's going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I, as John, can purchase technologies and pay the technology creators for use of their technology, but I can take the song that I've purchased and use it in that technology without having to buy the technology and the song together in every single instance, right? That's the world we want to create. And as a follow-up, if you wanted to have me on your show again, I think there's an entire hour-long discussion and informational session about digital file types. I could elaborate for a while on why this is really complicated, what type of file types are in the works, and there's technical limitations to this. Basically everyone builds their own software and it all reads music, and most of them have to have some way of inputting using XML, but XML is a common language, but it's spoken differently in every app. Look, I used to live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and now I live in Boston, Massachusetts. We all speak English, but I guarantee a Cajun from Boston and a Cajun from Louisiana and a Southie from Boston could have a conversation. They wouldn't understand a word each other said. So it's just a matter of, just because XML has some standards, it's not universal, and that's the issue. And there are works in process to create a new standard of notation that would have the ability to carry the exact formatting and carry audio and carry all the information that an assessment tool, like, for example, the assessment tools like Practice for Smart Music, like, you need some sort of audio reference to know if that's the right note. There's actually a lot of technology that goes into those apps that make them work the way they do, and XML just doesn't carry all of that right now, and there is no common file format that does. It's in the works. Now, it also means that, and actually our founder, Joe Berkovitz, is one of the main driving forces of that new technology, and he's still working on that, which is great. But then the question is, how soon will people adopt it? How soon will people convert all their music into this format? how long that process is going to take. You're talking years and years and years if everyone's willing to agree and say, okay, we'll all create apps that support this one format. And that's a short answer of a longer conversation. I'd love to have that conversation later because there's lots of complications. I'll hint on the other one is that, let's say I write something in Finale and I have it for a 9x12 page. My note size is set for that page size for that screen to print out in a certain way. Now I could export the XML, and the XML carries that note size and that margin size and all that stuff. But then I bring it into another app, like a reader app that's trying to somehow display it on a 9-inch iPad screen. Well, the note size and the margins, it's just going to be wacky. How does that screen know what to do with it? And we write all this code and we try to guess and assume. But even if we had a universal technology, there's still this other issue of taking a piece of music that's formatted for a certain size, page, and use and trying to jam it into a device that has a completely different size, page, and use. We're just going to have to guesstimate as to what we expect to happen, and there'll have to be controls to adapt it as needed. So even if you got the perfect technology, there's still this other element of we can't just magically read your brain and say, what, you want 2 measures at a time on your iPad and scroll left and right? Do you want to hold it vertically and see, what do you expect? So anyway, we should do a follow-up on digital file types and how all of that works. But it's complicated, right?
It is, but I actually think you summarized it very succinctly, what those challenges are. And obviously I didn't expect you to solve that problem through the power of your words alone. But I think it's interesting because I think that we have to kind of just wait some of this out. We being the teachers, I mean, you are obviously in the trenches, but I think that it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes because I think that I kind of just, I'm reckless and impatient and forward thinking though at the same time with my technology. And I think a few years into my teaching career, I was like, man, I just can't get any of this music onto my iPad without holding a phone over it and then just, digitizing one copy for myself of the music that I want to read. And, I think that the good news is, to follow that thought up, I'll say I kind of just gave up on the idea, but quietly, secretly, there have been some moves being made. And I think that Noteflight Marketplace is a really big move in the right direction. I mean, I think that, if you continue to set the standard for how simple and easy this can be to use, hopefully the rest of the industry will start to let their fear go a little bit. Because, I think there's money on the table for people who want to digitize their music. I mean, people will, again, maybe I'm making the wrong connection to say that, we had Napster, back in the 90s, and that obviously, was, illegal, but then we kind of had a lot of control over music. We had DRM, and then I think people like Spotify came around, and then of course in the video realm there's Netflix, and I think that people are willing to pay for music, like audio, if it's made convenient. Now, of course, there's a whole host of problems with musicians getting paid that we could dig into in that analogy. But my point is that if the process is made convenient for the seller and the user, people will pay, I think, for music. And, I don't think a lot of these copyright fears are as founded as possible. So anyway, I cannot express any more my deepest appreciation that you are pushing forward this initiative. I think it's very cool. I'm going to have to, I haven't bought anything on it yet, but I'm going to have to try in the coming weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I encourage everyone to try buying something on it for the number of authorized performers you intend to use, of course. But I guess that's another thing about the authorized performers. We want to give the people if it's sold, Choral works a minimum of 5, just like the Octavos do. But you could buy something, look at it for the minimum, and then if you decide to use it, just go back and add the usage you need to use it. We expect that type of behavior as well, and that's why we built it in. But I think you summed it up really well, Robby, is what we want to do is create a platform where people can sell their arrangements and additionally musicians can buy music as editable formats for their needs, where on this platform, music of any instrumentation and any genre and any, can all coexist and be, tweaked as needed. And so I'm interested to see what goes up and how people use it and how they all agree upon it. But I'm glad you recognized and said it, because our ultimate goal was, let's make this as easy and simple and open as possible while still protecting rights holders. Let's give people the ability to pay for the usage they need, and let's not put too many roadblocks at the same time. So we really, really wanted to allow people to get music to publish instantly, to get it out there. And it is crowd controlled. I mean, you can flag next to any score title. When you look at it, there's a little 3-dot icon. You can flag a score, and people can say, hey, this is not mine, or hey, this is not theirs. I mean, there is a crowdsourcing ability for people to identify, things that they may feel are erroneous, and we will, of course, act upon that to keep everything legal as well. But we want to create this world where everyone can buy and exchange music as the file they want. And the intent is not to replace traditional publishing at all. I mean, these publishers represent phenomenal high-level composers and musicians of the utmost quality. And so when you buy a Hal Leonard score, it's going to be the song, it's going to be error-free, it's going to be an amazing arrangement. And you want to buy that in print. You want to buy that from all the retailers. And so we don't really expect to replace that business as much as allow every composer an outlet to be able to sell and promote their works easily. In addition, to let music get to market really quickly. I think our biggest competitor is not print and sheet music. That business is actually sustaining well. Our biggest competitor is the next hit song comes on. Some 13-year-old kid's figured it out, and he's on YouTube teaching everyone the chords, and I could just Google the song with the word lyrics, and I could find the lyrics, and then bam, I'm playing the song. And I need it, and there's not an arrangement available yet for my 4 saxophones and 3 percussionists and guitar player in my little band. So I go on YouTube and watch that 13-year-old kid show me the chords, and I make a quick arrangement, and I start playing it. Well, no one's been compensated for their art. So we want to create a platform where that kid actually puts it up on Noteflight Marketplace, and I buy it, and I make my arrangement from that, and then I go ahead and, then we've compensated rights holders, and we've made it easier for that kid to distribute their music, and we've made it easier for that teacher to buy and arrange that music. That's the ultimate goal, and I'm excited about where this is going to take us.
Well, John, as usual, it has been a pleasure. I think I'm going to see you soon, maybe in a few weeks.
Yes, for sure.
I'm looking forward to catching up more in person. And yeah, I'll have to have you on again to talk a little bit more about this, the sort of like this whole digital file thing. I think it would be super fascinating to people who listen here. If you have not already, check out Noteflight Marketplace. It's really, really interesting. I actually was able to read pretty much what I believe are all the details about selling and purchasing like in 5 minutes. Like, it's very straightforward and simple. There are no like fiddly buttons or small print you need to click on, right, John? It's just those 2 pages.
We do have a legal terms of service, the purchasing guide and the selling guide, which I think is extremely well written and very, very clear. Whoever did that is just a genius. But that's your definitely read those before purchasing or selling. It only takes a couple minutes just to understand exactly what's going on. There is like the 18-page terms of service legal document in there as well. So definitely read through all of that. But the purchasing and selling guides cover the high level of all of the legal stuff as well. So we tried to make sure that we gave people a really like layman, easy to understand set of rules and regulations that all the legal information just supports what's in the buying and selling. So there's nothing hidden in the legal terms of service that is not included conceptually in the buying and selling guide. We're again, transparency.
Good. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah. All right. Well, until I talk to you again, this has been awesome. Everyone go check out Noteflight Marketplace. And John, I'll see you soon.
Thanks, buddy.